What if the hardest truth to face isn't out there in the world, but staring back at you from within? What if everything you avoid, every uncomfortable feeling you push away, every question you refuse to ask yourself is actually the key to your liberation? Today you stand before something ancient, something that has existed in myths, in fairy tales, in the deepest chambers of human consciousness. The mirror. Not the one hanging on your bathroom wall, not the one that shows your hair or your outfit, but the kind of mirror that reflects what you don't want to see, the parts of yourself you've learned to hide, even from your own awareness. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who mapped the hidden territories of the human psyche, spoke of the shadow, that dark companion we all carry, made up of everything we've rejected about ourselves, the anger we deny, the desires we suppress, the truths we find too painful to acknowledge. And Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dared to question everything, challenged us to face reality without illusion, to become who we truly are by confronting what we truly fear. Today, these two giants of human understanding come together in a single test, a test that doesn't ask you to be nice or polite or socially acceptable. It asks you to be honest, brutally, uncomfortably, liberatingly honest. Before you are three mirrors, each one ancient, mysterious, holding its own reflection of truth. They don't show your physical appearance. They show something far more revealing. Your hidden self, your avoided truth, the part of you that whispers in the darkness when you can't sleep. Don't think, don't analyze, don't choose what sounds best or most flattering. Instead, breathe deeply. Let your guard down, and ask yourself which mirror pulls at something deep inside you. Which one makes you feel something, even if you don't know why? Because that feeling, that inexplicable pull, is your unconscious speaking, and what it has to say might change everything. The test presentation. Look carefully at these three mirrors. Each one carries a different energy, a different truth, a different piece of what you've been avoiding. The first mirror is ornate, framed in silver, with cracks running through its surface like rivers of light. It looks delicate, almost broken, yet somehow still beautiful. It catches the light in fractured ways, creating patterns that shift and change. The second mirror is dark and heavy, framed in black iron with sharp edges. Its surface is perfectly smooth, almost too perfect, as if it refuses to distort anything. It looks like it could cut you if you got too close. There's something intimidating about its honesty. The third mirror is simple, frameless, ancient-looking, with a surface that seems to shimmer and ripple like water. You can't quite see a clear reflection in it. It's as if this mirror shows not what is, but what could be. It feels alive, constantly moving, never settling into one truth. Three mirrors, three truths, three parts of yourself you've been running from. Nietzsche once wrote, "And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." Today, you're not just gazing. You're choosing. You're deciding which abyss you're ready to face. Jung believed that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. These mirrors are your chance to make the unconscious conscious, to stop being controlled by what you refuse to see. So take your time. Let your eyes move across each mirror. Notice which one creates a reaction in your body, a tightness in your chest, a flutter in your stomach, a subtle resistance. That reaction is your answer. Choose now. Which mirror calls to you? Which one holds the truth you've been avoiding? Mirror 1. The fractured mirror. If your soul was drawn to the first mirror, the one with silver frame and fractured surface, with cracks that look like lightning frozen in glass, then you've chosen the mirror of hidden vulnerability. This isn't just any mirror. This is the reflection of someone who has learned to survive by appearing strong, by holding it together, by never letting anyone see the cracks. But here's what you've been avoiding. You are fractured, and that's not a weakness. It's your truth. The cracks in this mirror represent every moment you felt like you were breaking but forced yourself to stay whole. Every time someone needed you to be strong when you were falling apart inside. Every smile you wore while your heart was screaming. Every "I'm fine" that was actually a lie. You are the person everyone depends on. The one who shows up. The one who handles things. The reliable one. The capable one. People come to you with their problems because they sense your strength. But what they don't see, what you've carefully hidden, is that your strength was built from breaking. You've experienced loss. Maybe not always visible loss. Maybe not dramatic or obvious. But somewhere in your past, something shattered you. A betrayal. A disappointment. A moment when the world showed you that safety is an illusion. And instead of falling apart permanently, you learn to function while fractured. You learn to be beautiful despite being broken. This is the truth you avoid. You're tired. You're so tired of holding it together. You're exhausted from being everyone's rock when you're barely holding your own ground. You long to let someone see your cracks, to let someone hold you while you fall apart, but you're terrified. Because if you break, who will hold everything else together? Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we show the world. Your persona is strength, capability, resilience. But beneath it lives your shadow, and your shadow is desperate for rest. Your shadow wants permission to be weak, to be held, to admit that you can't do this alone. The fractured mirror reveals that your greatest fear isn't weakness itself. It's being seen as weak, being abandoned because you're no longer useful, being rejected because you're no longer strong enough. But here's what Nietzsche understood. True strength isn't the absence of breaking, it's the courage to break openly. To say, "I am not okay and I need help." The light that shines through your cracks isn't a flaw, it's proof that you survived. Those fractures are your story, your battle scars, your evidence that you faced darkness and came out the other side. But you can't heal what you won't acknowledge. Your avoidance takes the form of hyper-independence. You don't ask for help. You don't lean on others. You've convinced yourself that needing people is dangerous. But isolation isn't protection. It's a prison. What would happen if you stopped performing strength? What would happen if you let someone witness your full humanity, cracks and all? What would happen if you trusted that you could be loved not despite your brokenness, but because of your wholeness, which includes being broken? The fractured mirror is showing you this. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to need others. And the people who truly love you won't run when they see your cracks. They'll find you more beautiful for being real. Your path forward isn't more strength, it's more honesty. Not with the world, with yourself. Stop pretending you're unbreakable. Stop carrying everything alone. Stop believing that your worth is measured by your usefulness. You chose this mirror because part of you is ready. Ready to stop hiding. Ready to be seen. Ready to admit that the weight you're carrying is too heavy for one person. And ready to discover that true strength isn't holding it together. It's having the courage to fall apart and trust you'll be caught. Mirror 2. The iron mirror. If you were drawn to the second mirror, the one framed in black iron with sharp edges and a surface so clear it's almost cruel, then you've chosen the mirror of brutal honesty. This is the reflection of someone who sees too much, feels too intensely, and refuses to look away from darkness. This mirror doesn't soften anything. It doesn't blur uncomfortable truths or create flattering angles. It shows exactly what is. And you chose it because somewhere deep inside, you're tired of lies, tired of pretending, tired of the endless performance of being someone you're not. Here's what you've been avoiding. You're angry, deeply, intensely angry. Not at one person or one situation. At everything. At the world for being unfair. At people for being shallow. At yourself for caring too much. At life for promising meaning and delivering chaos. You are the person who sees clearly. While others live in comfortable illusions, you perceive the cracks in every system, the hypocrisy in every institution, the selfishness behind every smile. You see through people. through their masks, their performances, their carefully constructed lies. And this clarity is both your gift and your curse. Because when you see too much, you can't unsee it. When you know how fake most interactions are, how superficial most relationships are, how empty most pursuits are, you can't participate in them with genuine enthusiasm. You're the one at the party feeling existentially alone. The one in the meeting wondering why everyone's pretending this matters. The one in relationships feeling like you're the only one being real. The iron mirror reveals your shadow, and your shadow is contempt. You look down on people who don't think as deeply as you do. You dismiss emotions as weakness. You've built walls so high that even you can't see over them anymore. You've turned your pain into philosophy, your fear into criticism, your loneliness into superiority. Nietzsche wrote, "Beware that, when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster." You've been fighting dishonesty so long that you've become brutally, unnecessarily harsh. You use truth as a weapon. You use insight as armor. You've confused being honest with being cruel. What you're avoiding is this. Your anger is covering something softer, something more vulnerable. Hope. You're angry because you care. You're contemptuous because you're disappointed. You see through people because you're searching desperately for someone you can't see through, someone real, someone who meets your depth. But here's your trap. You've made yourself so sharp that no one can get close. You've turned your clarity into a barrier. You test people, push them away, see if they'll stay. And when they leave, you tell yourself it's because they weren't deep enough, weren't real enough, weren't worthy. But the truth you avoid is that you pushed them away because you're terrified of being known. Jung spoke of the shadow as containing not just darkness, but also the parts of ourselves we reject. You've rejected your need for connection. You've rejected your longing to be understood. You've rejected your desire to belong, because wanting those things feels weak, and weakness is what you hate most. But Nietzsche also said, "One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." Your anger, your darkness, your refusal to lie, these aren't flaws. They're the chaos from which something extraordinary could be born, but only if you stop using them as walls and start using them as fuel. The iron mirror shows you this. Your standards aren't the problem. Your honesty isn't the problem. Your depth isn't the problem. The problem is that you've weaponized these gifts. You've turned your truth into a test that no one can pass. You've made your inner world so hostile that even you don't want to live there anymore. What would happen if you used your clarity not to judge, but to understand? What would happen if you softened your edges just enough to let someone in? What would happen if you admitted that beneath your contempt lies a desperate wish that the world could be different, that people could be better, that you could find someone who sees what you see? Your avoidance manifests as intellectual superiority and emotional withdrawal. You've convinced yourself that you're above needing others. But isolation isn't enlightenment, it's avoidance. And your anger isn't wisdom, it's protection. The path forward isn't to become softer or more naive, it's to become more human. To admit that your harsh judgments come from hurt, not from truth. To recognize that the monsters you see everywhere exist because you're looking through the lens of your own pain. You chose this mirror because you're ready to face the thing you fear most. That beneath your armor of honesty and clarity, you're just like everyone else. Scared, lonely, desperately wanting to be seen and loved, and that admitting this doesn't make you weak. It makes you finally terrifyingly, beautifully real. Mirror 3. The rippling mirror. If you were captivated by the third mirror, the ancient frameless one with a surface that moves like water, never showing a fixed reflection, constantly shifting and changing, then you've chosen the mirror of endless becoming. This mirror doesn't show you who you are. It shows you who you could be. And then it shows you someone else. And then someone else again. Because here's your truth, the one you've been avoiding. You don't know who you are. And you're terrified that if you look too closely, you'll discover there's nothing there. No core, no fixed self. Just possibilities that never become real. You are the person of endless potential. Everyone has always told you that. You're talented, intelligent, capable of so much. You could be an artist, a writer, a leader, an entrepreneur. You could do anything, be anything. And that infinite possibility, which sounds like freedom, has become your prison. Because if you can be anything, how do you choose to be something? If every path is open, how do you commit to one path? If every version of yourself is possible, which version is true? The rippling mirror reveals what you've been avoiding. You're running from commitment, from definiteness, from the terrifying moment when you have to choose one life and let all the other lives die. You're addicted to potential because potential means you haven't failed yet. Potential means you're still special, still limitless, still full of promise. But potential that never actualizes isn't potential. It's avoidance. It's fear disguised as open-mindedness. It's paralysis disguised as flexibility. Jung believed that individuation, becoming your true self, requires integrating all parts of yourself into a coherent whole. But you resist integration. You resist coherence. You resist becoming fixed because being fixed feels like death, like limitation, like admitting you're just one person living one life instead of infinite persons living infinite lives. Your shadow isn't one thing. It's everything. Every choice you didn't make, every path you didn't take, every version of yourself you might have been. And these unlived lives haunt you. They whisper that you're wasting time, that you're not enough, that everyone else seems to know what they're doing while you're still figuring it out. Nietzsche spoke of amor fati, the love of fate, the acceptance of your actual life, not your imagined lives. But you can't love your fate because you won't choose your fate. You keep every door open. You keep every option available. You dabble in everything and commit to nothing. This manifests in your life in predictable ways. Unfinished projects, relationships that never deepen, jobs you outgrow before they begin, constant restlessness. The feeling that you're always on the verge of becoming who you're meant to be but never actually arriving. What you're avoiding is this. Becoming someone specific means killing all the other people you could have been. Choosing one path means accepting that the other paths will never be walked. Living one life means admitting that you only get one life. And beneath that avoidance is an even deeper truth. You're afraid that if you commit to being one person, that person won't be enough. That the real you, the actual fixed version of yourself, will be disappointing. Ordinary, limited, human. The rippling mirror shows you this. Your resistance to being defined isn't freedom, it's terror. Terror of being seen as you actually are instead of how you could be. Terror of being judged on what you've done instead of what you might do. Terror of living a real life instead of an imaginary one. But here's what both Jung and Nietzsche understood. There is no true self waiting to be discovered. There is only the self you create through your choices, your actions, your commitments. You don't find yourself. You build yourself. And you can't build anything without making choices. Your path forward requires courage of a specific kind, not the courage to explore more possibilities. You're already doing that. You need the courage to close doors, to say no to most things so you can say yes fully to something, to risk being defined, being limited, being one person instead of everyone. What would happen if you stopped preparing to live and actually lived? What would happen if you chose one dream and pursued it with everything you have? What would happen if you let yourself be seen not for your potential, but for your actual current self? You chose this mirror because you're exhausted. Exhausted from the endless searching. Exhausted from never landing. Exhausted from living in your head instead of in the world. And somewhere inside, you know the truth. Freedom isn't having every option. Freedom is choosing one option and making it yours. The water will keep rippling forever if you let it. But at some point, you have to reach in. You have to disturb the surface. You have to grab something solid and say, this is what I choose. This is who I am. Not who you could be, who you are, right now. Imperfect, limited, specific, real. For the end, what we have? 3 mirrors, 3 truths you've been avoiding, 3 invitations to face what you fear most. If you chose the fractured mirror, your truth is vulnerability. You're avoiding the fact that you're tired of being strong, that you need others, that your cracks are where your light comes through. If you chose the iron mirror, your truth is tenderness. You're avoiding the fact that beneath your harsh honesty lives a desperate hope that the world could be different, that you could belong, that someone could meet your depth. If you chose the rippling mirror, your truth is commitment. You're avoiding the fact that you must choose one life, one self, one path, and let all the others die so that you can finally actually live. These aren't pleasant truths. They're not comfortable. They're not what you wanted to hear, but they're what you needed to hear. Because Jung was right. What you don't face controls you. What you avoid runs your life from the shadows. And Nietzsche was right too. The truth, no matter how harsh, is better than the most beautiful lie. The mirror you chose isn't random. It's a message from your unconscious, a signal from the part of you that's tired of running, that wants to stop avoiding, that's ready to face what must be faced. So now the question is, what will you do with this truth? Will you acknowledge it and then push it away again? Will you recognize yourself in these words and then return to your comfortable avoidance? Or will you let this be the moment everything changes? Because that's what these mirrors offer. Not prediction, not judgment, not condemnation. Transformation. The chance to stop being controlled by what you won't see and start being freed by what you finally face. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And Nietzsche said, "Become who you are." But first, you have to admit who you are. You have to face the truth you've been avoiding. The fractured mirror teaches you that strength includes vulnerability. That being whole means accepting you're broken. That letting others see your cracks is how you finally heal. The iron mirror teaches you that clarity without compassion is cruelty. That honesty without tenderness is violence. That the depth you seek in others must first be offered to yourself. The rippling mirror teaches you that infinite possibility without definite action is paralysis. That becoming someone requires killing everyone else you could be. That living one life fully is better than imagining 1,000 lives forever. These lessons aren't easy. They require courage. The courage to be vulnerable when you've learned that vulnerability gets you hurt. The courage to be tender when you've learned that tenderness makes you weak. The courage to commit when you've learned that commitment means limitation. But this courage is available to you, right now, in this moment, because you've already taken the first step. You looked in the mirror. You chose. You faced, even if just for a moment, the truth you've been running from. Now comes the harder part, living with that truth, integrating it, letting it change you. Not overnight, not dramatically, but gradually, consistently, honestly. The mirrors will always be here. Your truth will always be here. The question is whether you'll keep looking away or finally, courageously, necessarily, look back. Thank you for taking this journey into your shadow, for having the courage to face what most people spend their whole lives avoiding, for choosing to see what you'd rather not see. If this resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in one of these mirrors, share your experience in the comments. Tell us which mirror you chose and whether the truth it revealed felt accurate. Your honesty might give someone else the courage to face their own truth. And remember, the goal isn't to eliminate your shadow. It's to integrate it, to bring what's hidden into the light, to stop being controlled by what you won't acknowledge and start being empowered by what you finally see. Until next time, keep looking, keep questioning, keep facing what you fear, because that's where your freedom lives, not in avoiding the truth, but in becoming brave enough to see it.